Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. It's Benny right here, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you guys how to cut a corset top with a Milkmaid bustier and a stylish Gigot sleeve like the one you see me wearing. This top is easy to make and I really loved how snatched it turned out. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so, and if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for returning back. Welcome back. So if this is something that you're interested in, keep on watching. Let's go, guys. So guys, as seen earlier at the beginning of the video, these are the two fabrics that I'll be using to achieve the blouse. So as I said earlier, this video is for the pattern drafting of the blouse. In my next video I will share the sewing tutorial of this blouse. So the brown and the black fabric is going to be for the cups, and the black and the multicolored is going to be for the bodies of the blouse and the sleeve as well. So we need about 2.5 yards of the bigger part and 1 yard for the smaller part. So the first thing you see me doing is making an 1/2 inch straight line across the pattern paper to serve as my shoulder line and also as my starting line for us to be able to draft the pattern for this beautiful blouse. So from the shoulder line, I came down to my bust point, which is for me 10.5 inches. Please make sure that you're using your own measurement. Then I came down from the shoulder to the under bust, which is 13 inches for me, and I marked that across the pattern paper. And then shoulder to waist is at 16 inches. Then I marked the length of my blouse at 23 inches because I'm really tall. Then I went ahead to connect the lines and labeled my bust point, other bust points, my waistline and hemming line. And this area is serving as the center of the blouse. So from the center I went in on my shoulder line by 3 inches for the width of my neck and 3 inches down for my neck depth. Then I connected the 2 points with my curve rule to create a round neck. Next, I went in by half of my shoulder measurement, which is 7.5 for me, then marked it and came down from that point by 1 inch, then came down from the 1 inch point by 8 inches, which is my armhole depth. Then I measured what I had left, which is almost 2 inches, and then I marked it across. This will serve as our chest line. Please make sure you're using your own measurements. Then I drew a straight line from the shoulder line to the chest line. Then I drew a slant line from my shoulder line to my neckline, which will serve as my shoulder slope. Then I got the midpoint from the line and made a point there. Then I came in by 1/2 inch on the chest line. And then I divided my bust measurement into 4 and made a point there. Then I will be connecting these 3 points together to give me my armhole with a curve rule. So my nipple to nipple measurement is 7 inches and I divided that into 2, which is 3.5 inches. Make sure you're using your own. So I will mark 3.5 inches on my bust line, my under bust line, my waistline and also my hemming line. Please pay attention to the places that I am marking. Then I will connect the dots with a straight rule. And now we're just trying to create our dots on the waistline. So from the waistline, I will come in by 1/2 inch on both sides. Then I came up by 1 inch on my hemline. I made a point there. Then I connected all my dots with my straight rule as seen. And that is that about the dots. So if yours is looking anything like mine, congratulations, you're on the right track. So on my bust point, I marked my bust line divided by 4. On my waistline, I marked my waistline divided by 4 and I measured the dots and replaced it there. Then I'm coming down to the hip line, marked my hip measurement divided by 4, and now I will connect these 3 dots to give me my body measurements. So from the under bust line, I went up by 1 inch at the center and 1 inch from the side as well. Then I connected it to the dot line using my curved rule on both sides, as you see me doing like this. If you are confused on what I am saying, just watch what I am doing and you would understand. I ended up recurving this line at the center because it wasn't to my taste at first. So it's okay for you to redo something if you don't like how it's looking. And then I just marked an X there to show that I cancelled the line. So from the chest line, I went in by 1 inch because I wanted my bust to be really covered. If you don't want that, you can maintain your chest line that is already existing. Then I drew a straight line to connect the dots across to make my new neckline. So I went up by 1.5 inches at the hemline to give me a little curve, and then I connected that point to my curve rule and marker. So then I labeled the upper part as the cup and the under as the bodies, and then I cut it out. But please take note that I did not cut out the cup just yet because I need it to be a hole to draft the back pattern. So pay attention to the areas I am cutting out so you guys don't make a mistake. So guys, for the back pattern, I'm going in at the center by 1.5 inches to serve as my zipper allowance. And I drew a straight line across to connect my dots. Then I pinned my front pattern paper to the back pattern paper. Then I traced out my front paper and marked out my waistline, then cut out my back pattern and labeled it. So guys, one thing I have learned about doing this ruched blouse is that most times the neckline for my ruched blouses is too wide. So I arranged the armhole for the front and the back pattern together, and then I pinned that down and came in by 1 inch, and then I connected that 1 inch with my curved rule so that the neckline isn't so wide, and then I cut it out. And that's that about that. Once that is done, it's time to work on the cup. So the first thing I did was to cut the cup away, while the other part is going to be the bodies of the corset. So we're going to be tightening it up a bit. So from the end here, I will come out by 1/4 inch on both sides and connect it to the waistline. Then I extended it from the waist to meet the top of the under bust line. Then I will fold them together and get rid of the darts so that we don't have to bother ourselves with stitching down a dart later, so that this pattern paper will just remain as a one piece. And trust me guys, the struggle was real. Okay, I struggled to do this, so make sure that yours is like sitting properly. I still had to even redo it after this one safe because it was still not giving as it should give. So once I was able to get what I wanted, I used a sellotape to hold it down. After much struggle, this is what I have, and this is what I'm going to be using for the bodies. So for the cup piece, we are going to be slashing and spreading the cup pieces. So on the straight line, I will be marking 1.5 inch distance from each point till I get to the end of the cup. Then I use my straight rule to draw the lines across each point that I had. Then I labeled them 1 to 6, and then I cut them out on the straight line that I drew as seen. So next, I brought in another piece of pattern paper and drew a straight line at the side and another straight line across the paper. This will serve as our starting line. And then I began to arrange all the pieces according to their numbers. And between piece 1 and piece 2, I will give a distance of 1/2 inch all the way till I get to piece 6. And you can decide to use 1 inch or 1.5 inch if you want it to be fuller, depending on what you actually want. But I'm working with 1/2 inch. So you can decide to use 1 inch or 1.5 inch, depending on you. Now for the 5th one, after placing number 5, you won't place number 6 exactly on the line, but instead close to number 5 because it's the armhole area and it's not meant to be ruched. Once you are done, you can now go ahead and trace out your new bust cup, and then you cut it out and label it as the cup. So this is my cup, the body and the back pattern I'll be using. Remember, we'll be stitching down the darts at the back, but it will be done on the actual fabric. So this is the fabric that I'll be using to cut out the bodies of my blouse. So I went ahead to fold my fabric into two and place my pattern paper on the folded fabric. And then I pinned it down and added 1/2 inch stitching allowance all the way around. And then I added 1.5 stitching allowance at the side. And then I also added 1/2 inch at the top of the pattern paper as well to serve as my stitching allowance for the top. Once that was done, I connected all my markings and then I cut it out. And also for the back pattern, I folded my fabric into two, then I pinned my pattern paper on it and added 1/2 inch stitching allowance at the bottom and at the top, but 1.5 stitching allowance at the side of the blouse. And then I cut it out and slashed the middle because it's the back we're working with. So for the cup pattern, I folded my fabric into two with enough allowance around my pattern paper. Then I pinned it down and cut off that excess that I forgot to cut off earlier. If you're following the video, you would realize that there was an excess part that we forgot to cut off during our cup pattern paper drafting. So yeah, I cut it and then I pinned it down. And the next thing I did was to add 1/2 inch stitching allowance all the way around my pattern paper, but at the side, just like I did for the back and for the bodies, I'm adding 1.5 inch stitching allowance. Once all of that was done, I joined all my dots together with my tailor chalk and I'm just going to cut it out, and that's basically that about the cup pattern. So this is my cup pattern, and then this is my body pattern of the front, which I will be ruching the cups into, and then this is the back pattern that I will be using for the blouse. So my loves, in my next tutorial I'm going to be showing you guys how to make the actual blouse, so please look out for that video. If you still haven't subscribed to my channel, please do that and put on your post notifications so that you get notified when I drop a new video, and like this video as well, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.